these people are worth hundreds of millions. Top YouTubers are easily clearing top actors these days, in my opinion.
And you're not compelled to go back to YouTube. At 21, you made your first million.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Caspar Lee is one of the world's first globally successful YouTubers, followed by millions and earning millions, but who walked away from it all to reinvent himself as an entrepreneur. He co-founded the influencer marketing platform, Influencer.com, and the venture fund Creator Ventures. In 2020, he was featured on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for his achievements in media.
YouTube was still this exciting experimental place. I started convincing not only YouTubers to collaborate with me, I managed to get people like Kevin Hart, The Rock, like Ed Sheeran.
How do you get people like that to come to your show?
So I didn't actually enjoy doing those big interviews because I would get like crippling anxiety and stomach fear for like days before. I had like this year of anxiety, like really like crippling, like to the point where I wouldn't even get in a car or I wouldn't want to leave my like house. And so
how did you come out of it? If you could talk to your younger self, what would you advise him?
Being a YouTuber, you are an entrepreneur. You're literally building a media company. I want to create this influencer marketing platform that allows creators to work with brands in a smarter way. Since then, that business has now got 160 people in about 5 countries.
How much do you own of that business? If I were to ask you today, what is your purpose in life? How would you answer this? Caspar, when you strip away YouTuber, investor, entrepreneur, how would you describe yourself?
I'm a goofy husband who probably hasn't fully grown up. The world is kind of this fun game for me at the moment, but there were moments when it wasn't fun. It was really difficult, and then I also see myself as like a South African living in another country. I fit in here in terms of I've got loads of friends. I feel like culturally it's very similar to kind of where I grew up. But I do see myself as someone who eventually wants to go home and make a difference back in South Africa, where I feel like when you grow up somewhere like that, it never leaves you.
Take me back to South Africa with you in those early years, your youth. How was growing up there? How did it shape your mind?
Yeah, so we moved there in 1995, when I was like a young baby. Hopefully all babies are young. Actually, some are man babies out there. There are a few of those. I grew up in this place called KwaZulu-Natal, which is a rural kind of village type area for the first few years. I just remember always running, like learning to cycle when I was like 3 years old, being outside, not overstimulated like London, but stimulated by kind of nature. And then we constantly moved and changed. My mom did a million different things. Like she was a chef, an estate agent. She started a chocolate factory. My dad did all sorts of things as well. He was firstly actually before that, my mom was also in the film industry, and that's where they met. So that goes quite nicely into what I eventually became one day. But yeah, everything was always changing. They always did enough for us. Like we were always okay. We got to go to like some good schools and things like that. But money was always like on their mind. And so growing up, I was always kind of worried about, could I ask for this, or like how was I gonna keep up with the kids in school if something. I got a scholarship to a school eventually that I somehow managed to do very well on the exam, even though I'm not very good at school because I'm terrible at remembering stuff. But the exam was like an IQ test, and I kind of was fine at that, or I guess I did well. But I remember going to that school, which was, filled with kids with quite a lot of cool things. And, when I went home, it was a stress. And so, yeah, I think early on I was like, making money is not easy, but I want to try and find a way to do it so I can have a secure environment for myself, my family, and my kids one day. And even my own parents, which I'm super excited now that I'm in a position where if anything ever happens to anyone in my family, I know that we can look after them.
I think our parents' education directly and indirectly shape our personalities? I think from an indirect perspective, what you're exposed to is the fact that you normalized pivoting into different things. So you see that moving from London to another country is something, or from the UK to another country is something normal. And then you see your parents going from one career or one job, one industry to another. So you normalize pivoting, which is already something unusual.
That's interesting.
And that's indirect. But from a direct perspective, how was your parents' educational style?
Yeah, so they gave a lot of trust in me, maybe because they were very busy. But I remember I spoke to my parents about this. They never went to a single parent-teacher kind of conference, you know, where your parents come to see how you actually did. And I remember being very happy about this as a kid because I wasn't the most well-behaved.
You still look very happy about it.
And so yeah, I guess there was that, another thing maybe, you know, they were always present with me at home, and they were always loving and great, but there wasn't like this big fear that if I did something wrong at school that I would get in trouble. And actually once I did actually do something wrong. I drank alcohol when I was 14 on a hockey trip. And it was like literally I had half a bottle of Hunter's Dry, which if you're South African, you might know, but it's very weak alcohol. Didn't feel it. But eventually got called in. I got kicked off the hockey team, couldn't go on this hockey tour. And my stepdad at the time, who joined us by then, he basically had a massive argument with the principal in front of me saying, what the fuck do you think you're doing, throwing this guy off the team for drinking a little bit of alcohol? And that was interesting to see someone stand up to authority like that. I was petrified because I took authority at school very seriously. And actually, funny enough, because I didn't go on that hockey trip, my parents decided that they would let me go to London instead to meet all the people I'd been speaking to online. And I made loads of YouTube videos with them, and that's where I was able to blow up my YouTube channel.
Fascinating. I think that having a very strict relationship with an authority figure can make you be less of a risk taker, because you want to follow the rules. I think to an extent,
exactly,
it needs to be respected.
And that was the nuance there. Is my stepdad himself, he was my authority figure, but I saw him stand up to other authority for me.
And what do you think how did that shape your mind?
Well, yeah, as I said, I used to be like, when my mom would break any rule, like I would just be, Mom, what are you doing? Stop it. Like, we got to follow the rule. Like, someone said, wait 5 minutes. Someone did this. And I think by the time I was 17, 18, I figured out that I couldn't just wait around for absolutely everything. I'm not saying do something illegal, but I had to figure out ways to advance what I was doing. And an example of that would have been on YouTube in the early days. This was like 2010. I was just on my own in South Africa in a bedroom, and I had to figure out how to get people to watch me, and no one was watching me. And so I created like 5 to 10 accounts manually, didn't create a bot, didn't go buy them, just created these accounts. And every time I uploaded a video, I would comment on my own channel saying how amazing it was. So hopefully other people saw that I was good advertising for myself. And I could also combat all the dislikes I was getting with likes, because you could see likes back then and dislikes. And then I would also go on other people's channels and I would say, hi, I'm Caspar, I make videos like this YouTuber. And then I'd get those accounts that I was on, and I would just sign into every single one. It took me a long time, and I would like my comments. So it was the most #1 like comment back then. And so, yeah, I would find little ways that weren't perfectly by the book, because I'm sure on the terms of service on YouTube back then, you're not meant to be creating accounts.
But I would imagine that you were on YouTube back then, not because you wanted to make a career out of it, because probably you didn't even know what was a career, but you wanted to have some fun. Yet you still wanted to be seen.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I guess I think I wanted to be cool. I think I don't know if everyone feels like this, but for me, it felt very normal to want to be cool and accepted amongst kids in my class. I really wanted to impress girls growing up. I was always like, one of the things I loved most about school was going to like see girls. Like, could I get a girlfriend? Like, I went to co-ed schools, not my whole life, but as soon as I went to a co-ed school for the first time, I was like, this is amazing. And so I thought like maybe having a YouTube channel would make them think I was cool. I had pretty bad skin growing up, so maybe I was trying to compensate for that. I also have Tourette's syndrome, and that was also something that maybe wasn't.
What's that syndrome?
So it's basically like where you have involuntary tics. So you might move your head like that. You might click your neck. Some people have verbal Tourette's where they have to swear. And so, yeah, I would get kicked out of class. And like when you're on a date and you have to like kick the seat in front of you because your leg is twitching or something like that. That was something that I was probably trying to compensate for with YouTube.
And then this turns from a compensation initiative to a full-time career. You moved to London at the age of 18 and you wanted to follow a full-time professional YouTube career.
Yeah, so when I was 18, I just said to my parents, I'm going to try and make YouTube work. I didn't know where that was going to be. I went to the US for a bit. I kind of stayed on people's couches. I think I'd managed to save up about £6,000. And in London at the time, I think, you could get an apartment that I wanted to live in. That was, I could put the deposit down and I could start paying my first month's rent. And my parents were okay with me doing that as long as I was funding it myself. And I quickly saw that there was an opportunity to make this really big at that point. And that was probably the first time I started thinking about the money, not just to be able to get me food at the tuck shop, which I was able to do for like a few months before I finished school with YouTube money. But I saw it as like, this is something that could be quite big. And if you work really hard, you make some smart decisions, you don't have to be the most talented person in the world to do well on YouTube, especially back then. It was something you could kind of gamify quite easily by collaborating with the right people, making the right content, and going to the right events.
Talk to me about that particular strategy, because 2 years after you moved to London, you reached, I think it was your first million of subscribers. But then 2 years after that, you had 7 million subscribers. You were doing something right. So to what exactly do you attribute that growth?
Yeah. So there was this community of us who came together. It was first called the Brit crew, which we didn't call it that. And I'm not British, so I don't know how I fell into that. But that was a group of us who all made videos together. And then there was this one that, again, became named the Buttercream Gang, which is a really weird name. But basically, the strategy I had personally was not trying to rely on myself or my relevancy to grow my audience. Just like you maybe in the beginning with this podcast used something like a platform like Forbes, I used other people's stories as a platform for myself. And in the beginning, it was just like us playing fun games together. But over time, I started interviewing people. I started convincing not only YouTubers to collaborate with me, but I managed to get people like Kevin Hart, The Rock, like Ed Sheeran.
How do you get people like that to come to your show?
So that was when YouTube was still this exciting experimental place for these people when they were launching a new movie or a song. And back then, like now, if you basically invite someone on a channel with 7 million subscribers that's getting 2 million views a video, it's pretty easy to get pretty much anyone who's promoting something. But back then, like they were super like, what the hell is going on here? So I couldn't start off by saying, guys, come to my house, I want to make a video. I had to go to them. So I would go to press junkets. And a press junket is basically when someone's sitting in a hotel room for 10 hours talking to a bunch of journalists, and each journalist gets like 10 minutes. But I would say to them, okay, I'm going to do this, but I have a little bit of leverage. I've got like this big YouTube channel that's going to do a lot better than everyone else who's in these rooms. Like even if they're from the BBC, like we're going to get more views than that.
And you were communicating.
I was communicating email to their with my team to their reps.
You already had a team.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I consciously made the decision. Like my team would come to me and say they don't want to let you have longer. They don't want to take away the backdrop, which would be like the movie poster. And I said, no, if we're going to do this, and this is where I had to take a bit of a risk with the negotiation, we got to make it look like these guys are in my bedroom. We got to make it look like these guys are actually my friends. And if I can be the first YouTuber to make it look like these big celebrities are just friends, or we're doing some sort of fun skit together, or they're coming around my house, that's going to be way more interesting content than I've just managed to go to a press junket. So I managed to do that, and then over time... Pardon?
How did you manage to do that?
Well, to be honest, it's not that hard to tell them just to take away the sign for 10 minutes or to just pretend to be like at someone's house. Like, I know, like, there was this thing where everyone else was maybe too scared to ask them, but because I had enough leverage, because the YouTube channel was big enough, I did that. And I think it made a massive difference. And then when you had literally 1, 2, or 3 big names do something, everyone else is then doing it. So like when Ed Sheeran did my video.
That was your first big name, Ed Sheeran?
No, that was like way after. But the reason he did it, and he got in touch with our team about it, because he's a very smart marketer. And he was like, I like how Caspar's doing it in a more authentic way. He doesn't seem nervous about it. He doesn't seem like he's at a press junket. So he came to my apartment to do it, which was super cool because everyone in the apartment block thought I was pretty cool having Ed Sheeran come up.
How old were you?
At this point, I must have been like 22.
Wow.
And yeah, then had some crazy experiences. But for me, I got actually really nervous in those situations. And I didn't actually enjoy doing those big interviews because I would get like crippling anxiety and stomach fear for like days before. And even though I'd done like 10 of these things or more, like every time it didn't get easier. And I didn't really know what that was.
Do you now know what that was?
I think it was, I think it was youth, like imposter syndrome, not really believing what I was doing was legitimate. And, you know, I think over time I've become more secure in myself. But I reckon there's still moments where if I push myself and do something where I don't feel like I'm meant to be there, I still get really anxious. And I've kind of learned how to work with it. Like I've learned to just like let it happen. I've learned like it doesn't really matter if I go super red in the face. People don't really care. They maybe actually want you to succeed even more when they see you going through something like that. And whereas I think back then I was just trying to avoid things that made me scared. Even though I'd eventually do it, I'd spend like 3 days thinking, how do I not do this?
So you became more you throughout time, and that gave you confidence, accepting yourself.
Exactly, accepting like it's okay to feel those nerves. Kind of rather, it's almost like what's those little like the Chinese something game where if you push it together, it actually opens up. I don't know what it's called. Someone hopefully in the comments can tell me. But like it's weird in life where you stop fighting something, it gets better. And then the other thing is I think now when I got recently got married, now in my 30s, I'm starting to realize like maybe everyone just always feels like this. And when I realized that, and even like as you get older, no one has all the answers. I'm like, okay, well, it's just this great fun game. There isn't this like perfect person who I'm trying to become. I can just be myself, and that's cool.
I think it's a powerful tool to normalize a given situation and to humanize it. At 21, you made your first million.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I always had this kind of weird relationship with money because growing up we didn't really have a lot of it, and we were always kind of like trying to figure out how we can not survive, but how it's just we weren't. I don't want to ever say like we had nothing, but there's families out there who have an income but they're still struggling, and I when I made that money I was like, I'm not going to spend any of it. Like I need to turn this into more, so that one day if everything falls apart, I have this nest that I can look after myself and my family. And I've always wanted to kind of create this nest that can protect me, so I can go out there and do more and more crazy things to potentially build a bigger nest or to have fun. But it was never a case of going out and buying something cool. I don't enjoy paying for an asset that loses value. My favorite thing is buying an asset I actually like, and there's a chance that it can increase in value.
It seems to me that from your parents' professional experience, they were pivoting from one job to another. There was an income, but perhaps the visibility and the regularity of that income was inconsistent.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's what you were seeking.
Yeah.
That consistency.
I think so. And being a YouTuber, you know, I was never under the impression that it was going to last forever. My audience, I think they like me because I hopefully was funny. They like me because of the videos and people I had in them. But I was also young, right? And a lot of people probably liked me because we were the same age, or there was just like this kind of youthfulness to it all. And I knew that I couldn't keep doing those sorts of videos into my 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I even thought, like, do I want to be... there was parts of making videos I love, like editing, but coming up with ideas and constantly trying to convince people to collaborate with me on a YouTube video. Like, it gets tiring and it's a treadmill. So I wanted to be able to go to myself or my future self and say, like, you don't have to do this. And that's why I never spent anything on crazy shit. I did spend a little.
It's interesting what you're saying, that you thought that you weren't sure if you wanted to do the same thing when you were 40, 50 or 60. I've asked that same question to the manager of the Sidemen that came to the show. I asked him, do you think that an influencer, a YouTuber, could be posting videos about gaming or comedy videos, which are the ones that the Simon, for example, right now they're doing when they're 40 or 50? Because I would assume that maybe the talent, the influencer, the YouTuber might not want to be doing that when they're 40 or 50, but also their audience would have grown. His answer was, you would be surprised how many people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, from an audience point of view, are into that type of content. And also, they are people with a higher income than the youngsters that are on YouTube.
I agree with him.
He said that is a big market.
I agree with him 100% now. And I've seen how, even as I've gone through life, I still go back to YouTube and I still love creators. And I don't think that's ever going to change. I've got this habit ingrained in me now. And when I was back then, I probably thought, because old people weren't watching YouTube, why would they start? But what's actually going to happen is our age group is going to grow up and continue. But at the same time, the style of content I was making, I felt was for a certain demographic, whereas people, maybe like the Sidemen, they've kind of grown with their audience. The world I was involved in, it didn't work. And if I was ever going to do it, I always believed I would have to take a break or do a massive pivot. And so I guess you could call stopping YouTube for 5 years a break. Maybe one day in many years I'd jump on the platform. I still love creating content. I love talking. I love entertaining. But I've kind of spent the last 5 years building stuff and actually doing stuff. So maybe when I do come back one day, I have really useful information to give.
And what's the greatest lesson you've learned when it comes to YouTube in particular?
The greatest lesson with YouTube... It's just so many lessons. I think I've learned how to take something from 0 to 1, and that's the great thing. I've learned how to take rejection. I've learned how to feel a flop. I've learned how to get a ton of hate. I've learned how to deal with praise. There's not one big thing, lesson I've learned from YouTube, but. I think it's very similar to entrepreneurship, and that's why I think, like, YouTubers are famous now, and when you compare them, they do get compared to musicians and actors, but I think YouTubers, not all of them, but I think a lot of YouTubers are very well-rounded entrepreneurial people when you compare them to normal celebrities, because they've actually had to go through this thing, which is like, you're the editor, you're the producer, you're the director. You have to build a team, you have to be consistent, you have to think, you have to come up with ideas. You don't just have this talent that pushes you through.
Which YouTubers do you think are leading the way at a global scale, not necessarily just in the UK?
Yes, the industry is so fragmented now that, like, the YouTubers I watch today aren't necessarily the most popular ones. So
who are the most popular ones?
Well, Jimmy, Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast.
In terms of kind of views, he's just unrivaled. and then you get everyone kind of in between. But the kind of creators that, and obviously there's also a lot of children's content creators that I never see, but these guys are actually probably getting as many views as him. Have you heard of like Nastia?
No.
Like I met
so that's a big market.
oh my God. I met this girl like Nastia. I think she's got like hundreds of millions of subscribers, and she's like 9.
Hundreds of millions of subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like these people are building.
How much can you make annually if you have hundreds of millions?
Yeah,
of subscribers?
I mean, this person's in
Ballpark figure.
I mean, yeah, whatever. These people are worth hundreds of millions. Some, it's insane. Like top YouTubers are easily clearing top actors these days, in my opinion.
And you're not compelled to go back to YouTube.
I think if you're gonna do that level of YouTube, that's your full focus, and you are taking you have to be you have to be quite lucky to also. It's skill as well, consistency, but you can't just say I'm gonna work super flipping hard, and I'm gonna become that. It's a combination of many things, and I think it's while it's obviously a place you can make money. I think there's other ways. If your goal is the money, if you're asking me would I go back to YouTube for the money, I think there's easier and better ways you could make money. But if the goal is because you want to reach a lot of people and you want to make really cool content, then YouTube is a great place for that.
Talk to me about the moment that you quit, because you were hitting absolutely every target possible back then. You're getting the subscribers, the views, the money, yet you quit. Walk me through either that period or the particular day in which you decided, I'm going to walk away from this.
So even though it probably looks today like it was all really, really great, it went from like 10 million views to like 5 million views to like 2 million views to like 1 million views and then even less. And when you start seeing that happening, even this amount of views today, like if I got 500,000 views on a video today, I'd be like, that especially YouTube, that is incredible. And anyone doing 500,000 views a video on YouTube is doing incredibly well. But I kind of went from those heights and I was like, I'm now doing this business stuff, which involves YouTube, it involves Instagram, it involves TikTok. I'm also a manager, I've got a management company. Do I want to be also trying to keep this thing going while I'm not focused on it? And it's not necessarily going in the right direction. I'd rather leave it on a high. And I'm a big fan of leaving things on a high. Don't wait until they've fully collapsed before you do it. That doesn't mean give up as soon as you see something going wrong one day. But if you've got really good data, it's sometimes better to move to something new. So yeah, I wanted to have that great memory of YouTube as something great that I did with my life. And I wanted to not try and hold on to it forever.
We were discussing this earlier, and I find this fascinating and a very powerful lesson. Some people, if they're lucky in life, they get to fall in love with the dream, with an idea, with a purpose. And in your case, at a young age, that was YouTube. And then if you're even luckier, you get to fall in love for the second time with a second dream, a second idea, a second professional path, which in your case was entrepreneurship. And you were able to pivot from one dream to another at a high, which is also very unusual. So in 2017, you become an entrepreneur. And since then, you've co-founded several businesses. So you're the owner or co-founder of an influencer marketing agency, a talent management company, an investment fund, and most recently, a student accommodation in South Africa. Before we deep dive into each, why did you become an entrepreneur? Why was this interesting or important to you?
Growing up, my mom did loads of things. One of the things she did was start a chocolate factory. And while that sounds epic, it's actually a really hard business. And I had to help out on weekends. and I learned about selling stuff to people in the market. And not only did I sell chocolate, I realized we had loads of books in our house, and I would just take the books and try to sell them at 100% margin because I wasn't paying for them. It's called stealing. I always wanted
in South Africa and in the UK.
Exactly. And I basically always loved doing that kind of stuff. And then you being a YouTuber, you are an entrepreneur. You're literally building a media company. Not that that's why I started, but that's what I figured out I was doing.
So you thought that you had transferable skills, but you did not have a business degree. And right now, unfortunately, in my opinion, we live in a world in which they tend to criticize us if we don't have an area of expertise that is backed by a degree. Did you ever feel like you would have done better as an entrepreneur with a business degree or not?
At the time, I thought if I had a business degree, it would probably help me. Because I maybe would have been more confident in what I was talking about at the time. Looking back now, I'm so happy I didn't go and get a business degree in those early years, because I spent that same time doing something really, really useful when wanting to be an entrepreneur, which is actually being an entrepreneur.
Walk me through the journey, the roadmap of founding all your different ventures. So let's go perhaps one by one. Tell me why you found them and how did you do it?
Yeah. So I was dating this girl who I'd met on Tinder, and one of her friends saw me on a bus because my face was on a bus. I was doing YouTube, and it was a campaign about being a YouTuber. So her friend got in touch with her and asked if he could meet if he could meet me. And she convinced me because she's my girlfriend at the time, and I had to say yes to everything. And so we sat in a room. And I thought it was going to be like a 30-minute chat with this guy. And I realized he had something special. He was someone who tried to go to business school, but he knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur quicker than waiting for that to finish. So he'd taken a break from his degree. And he had said, I want to create this influencer marketing platform that allows creators to work with brands in a smarter way than currently going on. And I knew there was a problem. I also knew that I had the ability to make this business better. And so I came on board. We raised some capital. We got more brands to sign up. We got more creators to sign up.
At that point, you were a confident young man then.
I just watched Straight Outta Compton.
Or naive.
Yeah, pardon?
Or naive.
Yeah, naive.
Which it can be very
naive.
Useful.
Exactly.
I think being naive can be very useful.
Exactly. I just watched Straight Outta Compton, and I saw Dr. Dre turn his kind of rapping career into an executive.
Great movie, by the way.
Great movie.
Great movie.
And I walked into my management company, and I started with a baseball bat, just smashing it up, just like him. I'm kidding.
So that movie inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
I think so. I was like, I can't wait around just for it to happen to me. I need to go out and do it.
Brilliant.
And so yeah, this is the first time I did something like this, and I realized early on, having a really good operator who's super motivated to make a business work with me, who's more of a kind of a visionary, out there, creative, someone who's connecting everything. Having those two things together is great. So that was that, and since then that business has now got 160 people in about 5 countries, and it's going extremely well. Then I started a talent management company with a guy called Joe Sugg. And he's my one of my best friends. We made YouTube videos for a very long time, and we were leaving a management company that had done good for us, but we felt like we could do something different. And so we approached WME IMG, who you might know. They're the biggest talent agency group in the world. They represent people like The Rock, and represent just thousands of brands and just creators and everything. And so we convinced them to set up a talent management arm for social creators, which they said yes to, and we did it with them. And since then, that business has now been around for 7 years. We have 30 incredible managers managing a roster of about 50.
But you are, in these 2 businesses that you just mentioned, a co-founder and an investor. But do you hold any operational role?
Yeah, so I do. But we have people who are line managers and
the day-to-day management.
Managers of people. I don't have direct reports in any of the businesses, but I have like operationally, I got to spend X amount of time a week on things. I'm a director of all of these businesses, which comes with board responsibilities and all of that kind of stuff. But I've avoided becoming like an operator.
So your approach or methodology in business is to identify a gap, set up a business, automate it with a management team, hold a strategic role more than operational, and then keep building new businesses.
Exactly. I'm not someone who is very good at details. Even though I enjoy it, like I love sitting on a laptop and just spending hours like going over it. I actually am a bit slow at doing it because I get so obsessed with like every single thing. I've got a bit of OCD. And I'm not the best. I'm like a forgetful person. Unless I put something in my phone, like write it down immediately after I've thought about it, I'll forget it. And so I've got like this ability, I think, to go out there and think differently and like get exposed to so much and can connect to so many people that can really help whatever business I'm involved in. And I actually, when we started these things, I wanted to do multiple things as well, because going back to my childhood, I was a believer that things don't usually work out. Like my parents had started a few things and they didn't all work out. So I wanted to do more than one thing. So I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. And so while by doing that, you maybe have a tiny little bit less ownership, you can actually grow that less ownership into something way bigger, because you have people who are super talented that you've managed to convince to do things with you. And you can also do multiple things potentially. In my case, I could. And then the success of MVE and influencer.com led me to start investing. I did this because entrepreneurs had asked me if I'd come in as an angel investor in a couple of deals, and I was very close with my cousin Sasha, who was just finishing at Harvard Business School, who had a very different style and upbringing to me in terms of he's like super on it with details. He's super smart. He was like #1 in Oxford, top 5% Harvard Business School. He was going to work in private equity. And I told him about these opportunities to invest in businesses. And he was like, oh shit, some of these are actually pretty good. I'm going to help you to figure out which ones are good, because I had no idea like what's a good business to invest in.
How old were you at that point?
This was like 6-7 years ago. So I guess like 24, 25. And also, even though I had entrepreneurial experience, like you do as an entrepreneur, I don't always think they make the best investors. They can be good investors, but it's a very different skill. So he guided me through that. We then started getting other creators to invest alongside us. We even got like actors, artists, athletes. And we did like 4 or 5 deals. We didn't take any money from any of these people to help them with the investing. The way we made our money.
Having investors with that profile, do you think, especially in consumer goods industries, helped the companies in which you're investing in?
It helps them for sure. And what we were doing differently though, which allowed us to get in the best consumer companies, was we were not saying we're gonna give you £10,000 and then if we do a tweet, we want to have X thousand pounds free of equity. We were just saying we're going to give you 10,000, whatever the money is. Each, like people are different. Some people are putting in a lot more than that. And we're not going to ask for any free equity in return, and we're going to be helpful. So we're just going to be like any other investor, but we're also going to be helpful because we have a following or we have connections or we can, give thoughts on something because that's our area of expertise. And so
were you not leveraging your more powerful or advantageous position because you had celebrities within your cap table to maybe challenge the valuation?
No, not at all. Because as an investor, it's you don't make money by, of course you can technically make more money by bringing the valuation down and then it does really well and you do really well. But the better way to make money in investing is just go into the best deals in the world. And those best deals aren't going to say, oh, you want to invest? Okay, I'll bring down my valuation for you. They have thousands of investors trying to get in. And so rather than going for maybe the top 20% of deals and bringing down the valuation, we were going for like the top 1% of deals and just trying our very best to convince them to let us in. And so we did that, and we, one of the companies sold, it was a $500 million part of a $1.5 billion transaction that happened within like a couple of years. few other companies, including Wild Deodorant sold recently, which were part of that syndicate that we were doing investing in. And we just had really good, we were not only getting great IRR, and we were not only having good markups on paper, we were actually having DPI, we were like selling companies too. So we raised a fund one, which was $20 million. A couple institutions, a lot of kind of high net worths were investing in that. And this time we were investing on behalf of other people. We weren't just doing it as a syndicate.
You were AVC, not APE, early stage.
Exactly, VC.
Yeah.
And the $20 million fund is going extremely well for a fund of that time, that size, that vintage. Let's hope it continues to do so. And we've now raised a second fund, $45 million. So now we have $65 million under management with some incredible LPs who, these are our investors, they're fund of funds.
In which industry do you deploy this capital?
In consumer internet. So mostly a lot of kind of AI application layer stuff. We've done something called Beehive, which you might know, which is a newsletter platform. We've done 11 Labs, which is basically a Savoy ASI tool, which is, it's like fucking amazing. I'll show you it afterwards. Like, you won't know the difference between my clone voice and my real voice. But yeah, there's all sorts of incredible businesses. Like even Practica, I don't know, it's a great language learning app. It's kind of like basically an AI avatar can teach you any language in the world at your own speed. And in the way you learn, and it's like got millions of users. And so yeah, we've managed to hit this interesting intersection of technology consumer founders who want some support when it comes to the creator economy, because that's how consumer companies get customers.
What is your role in this business?
So I'm the partner with Sasha. There's just two of us, and we do this all together. And again, it's another example of he's the main guy, I'm the other one, co-founder. And it allows me, working with someone like that, who he's not only family, but he's like a mentor, he's everything, is incredible. And it allows me to continue to do what I do at Influence, at MVE. But I learned so much from the fund, and I learned so much from those businesses for the fund and our portfolio companies, that it's just like this perfect kind of flywheel.
Talk to me about your latest venture, student accommodation in South Africa.
Yeah. So I don't actually talk about this very much, because sometimes when you talk about loads of businesses, just like people kind of tune out. So I thank you for asking me, and that's why I love to be on the podcast.
Your ability to pivot, not necessarily only to pivot, but to have a great time management skill, and to be engaged to an extent with so many different businesses, and they're all different, but they are at the same time related. I think it's fascinating. So please tell me more.
So yeah, I mean, you might go, why is student accommodation related to influencer marketing, creator economy? And the answer is it's 100% related, because students are the people who find out about things online. And so actually,
that's your addressable market.
Exactly. Like it's just the best way to acquire customers. And so, it's not actually the latest business I'm involved in, but it's something that is starting to now become a lot bigger, because we've been building it for like a long time in the background. But now we have like 500 rooms in Cape Town, and we're hopefully going to launch in London soon. So we should probably talk.
Are you using your fund to invest in that business?
No. It's a completely different business. Actually, it's a very capital efficient way we're building the business. Even though
it sounds capital intensive though.
Yeah, buying the properties would be, but we've done a combination of where we can getting equity in buildings, buying a bit of equity in buildings. We've done some houses ourselves, and that you can do that with the bank, and you can do lots of loans with this sort of thing. So there is capital, but it's not necessarily, you don't need to raise a bunch of money to do it the way we've done it. But the majority of the rooms we do, we manage them basically.
It's still capital intensive, because even if it's not your capital, you are raising debt, right?
Exactly, but not not like having to raise from like private equity or VC, but. At the same time, as I said, it's some of the buildings, of the 500 rooms, there's a percentage we manage. So that's very capital efficient. So there's a combination of owning the properties and managing the properties. And we basically built this community of really amazing young people who have found us on social media. And then when they come into the buildings, they're just basically building this amazing community, which we're able to foster with them. And yeah, it's the team. I can't, again, take much credit for that community side of things. What I hopefully can take credit for is the social media side, which created the demand. But now, like, that community is flourishing, and we've got like thousands and thousands of people on the waiting list. And we want to try bring it to the UK as well, because I think the UK property market at the moment is in a weird place, and I think there's a big opportunity.
I picked up on a common denominator when you were describing the 4 different businesses. And it's not something technical, and it may not be something obvious, but it was something beautiful for me to see. Every time you were describing each of them, you were smiling. So it seems that for every business that you involve yourself with, you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important, because it will allow you to see things through, because although on paper it seems that everything is going well for you from an entrepreneurial perspective, the life of an entrepreneur is packed with problems that you need to solve. And if you don't love your business or don't believe in your business from a passion perspective beyond profits, you're going to end up quitting very quickly. I'm interested in getting a better understanding of the problems you faced as an entrepreneur in the last years.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're always facing problems. That's kind of what happens. Issues rise to the surface. And while I prefer to focus on what's going well and trying to double down on that, especially as an investor, that's what we love to do. Like, you don't focus on all the issues, you focus on like putting all your capital into winning bets. As an entrepreneur and as a co-founder, issues come up and you're constantly putting those issues out. And every single day, I know I'll get a little bit of bad news about something going on. Like, when you're dealing with that many people, it happens. But if you don't take it personally and you look at each issue as a challenge, and you try and do the right thing, and you feel like you're somehow still a good person, I don't think you need to take everything in a super emotional way. I mean, I've had the time actually I've gotten most emotional is actually with the student accommodation business, because those are real people living their lives with us. And when you have a lot of these people, some bad stuff can happen, because these are young people. And, if I ever get a call from there, then I'm very concerned. When it comes to the other stuff, that's super important, but it's most of it's marketing that I'm involved in, or investing, or technology businesses. But with the student accommodation, that's where I can be like, that's serious, because these are young people who we need to look after, and make sure that we've done everything we can for them.
Probably the greatest lesson that an entrepreneur can arrive to is not related to a particular methodology or mindset or approach that you will apply in business, or a set of skills. As we've unpacked, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly exposed to so many different situations. In your first business, probably you were doing absolutely everything. So you are doing marketing, finance, operations. You learned so much. But then as you evolve and you grow and you involve yourself in different industries, you get to understand who you really are as a person more than anything else. And I think that's probably the biggest gift that entrepreneurship gives you, learning about yourself. What is the greatest lesson you've learned about yourself?
I'm terrible at these sorts of questions, because every day is different. And like, I guess the greatest lesson I've learned about myself is, it's a stupid answer, but I'm terrible on jet lag. I need to come up with a better answer than that.
It's interesting, because in every other question you were facing me, this is the only question that you decided. If anybody's looking at the screen and not just listening to this, Caspar just turned himself and was answering me with a completely different angle.
Anything, it's like, what's your favorite food? What's your, favorite musician? Anything, what is the number one thing? I struggle with those questions for some reason. And so when you don't prepare a guest for an interview and they don't see the script beforehand, they're going to struggle. But I think...
Let me help you there. I'm going to share with you
maybe you can
what
inspire
has been
me.
my greatest lesson.
Yeah.
When I became an entrepreneur, I was 22. I'm 29 years old right now.
Yeah.
And we've created a large business employing hundreds of people, generating millions in revenue and luckily millions in profit too. But when I started in this industry or as an entrepreneur, I was very perfection oriented. I still am, but I learned to have a healthy balance, to focus on progression rather than perfection. And I wanted for everything to be absolutely perfect because I wanted for things to happen yesterday. And that was my mindset. And that had a negative consequence, not only within myself, but also I could see that in my team, within my team, but also my friends and family that were around me, because I was almost seeking the same level of perfection and progressive mindset to them. And then as I grew my business and I started to confront things like delegation, so meaning that you cannot do everything yourself because there's no other way to grow unless you delegate, I came into terms in which a word in my head that became very powerful in these moments, which is learning. You're still learning. You're still learning. Mm-hmm. That allows me to humanize myself, to calm down and to accept that things will never be perfect, that perhaps even my own definition of perfection within a given situation or a given task or project may not be the real one. And if I preserve a constant, progressive and mindset that is open to be educated all the time, I can still be a perfectionist, but I'm not an unhealthy perfectionist. And this took me a long time, and unfortunately I've lost probably some good relationships along the way because of this. But again, going back to the very initial conversation that we had off camera, but maybe we can release this as a behind the scenes, you learn nothing from success, you learn everything from failure. And this is just one example of one of my, let's say, personal failures that is applied to business that allowed me to become a better version of myself.
Yeah. Now that you've given me some time to think about it, I have got something that I think super relevant, which I've just forgotten. Give me 1 second. I actually had it in my head while you were talking.
Okay, I'll give you another lesson then from me.
Oh no, we'll just give me 1 second. What the fuck? My mind's gone completely blank. I want to get it. It was really good.
Kieran, our editor, when you listen to this...
Oh, I got it.
Do not cut this. I love this moment.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah, keep this in. This is what happens.
Exactly.
And I lost it again. Okay, yes.
During the morning, this is not
challenge. You know how I said I can forget everything?
Yeah. Okay.
So I used to think growing up that when I achieve something really great or some really good news happens, that's what makes me really happy. I used to like getting that big thing I wanted for Christmas maybe, or finally convincing like a girl to go on a date with me, like, or finally making £1 million, as you said. I thought those were the moments that would make me happy. But I realized the moments that make me really happy are actually when I do something I didn't want to do and I get through it. Mm-hmm. So like going through a challenge makes me way more happy, or like avoiding a big loss or something like that makes me way happier and stimulates me way more. Like after this interview, you know, every podcast I do, for some reason, I still feel like, oh, I'm going to be a bit nervous. What if it goes wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And when I do it, because I feel like, even if it's a small challenge like this, I feel so good for the rest of the day. And so it's made me truly realize like that thing I'm chasing, that big prize at the end doesn't bring the happiness. What brings me happiness is those little challenges along the way and doing them.
I agree with you.
Glad I could remember that.
I also think that, especially this happens a lot to young people, we are fed a particular definition of success that is very much dopamine based and framed by Hollywood, which is getting, you know, the beautiful girl or making that amount of money. And it's fascinating because then we end up structuring our lives in a way in which we're constantly trying to achieve that. And then once we achieve it, we have a prior understanding of what that may feel. And then you think, well, when I achieve that, everything will make sense. I will be enough. you know, everything will fall into the right place, and then you achieve it. You get that £1,000,000, or you buy that Christmas gift, and it doesn't feel how you imagined it. Yeah. And then also you realize that specific moment lasts very short.
Scotty Scheffler was talking about this, the golfer. He's like the best golfer in the world. And he talks about winning majors, and he says it lasts for 2 minutes. But what doesn't last for 2 minutes is hang out with his family. And like, the journey. He just loves it. And people were like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, do you not enjoy winning these amazing things? Do you not enjoy the sport? No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying he loves the challenges, he loves the journey, he loves the small things in life. But those like big things that everyone thinks is amazing, when you're there, you're kind of like, wow, I'm just okay. It's probably a 2 minute of greatness. And it was this weird situation. Also, when I got married recently, and when we were standing there in the ceremony, I thought I was going to feel like this sense of like the whole world was going to be like crazy and we're going to be spinning in euphoria while we're doing it. And I was like, actually, it feels like we're standing here. I love it. I'm having the best time in front of all these people. I'm with my wife. But it just felt like I was just standing on a stage with my wife in front of our friends, almost like in a play, if that makes sense, where we're actors in a play. And I thought I would like feel it, but I'm just here. And some days when something great happens and I get great news, but I'm feeling slightly sick, Some days when I get bad news, but I'm feeling really good because I've gone to the gym and like I'm somehow strong that day. That's how I feel. And it's usually not dependent on like these big things. It's usually just the everyday stuff.
I agree with you. And that's very beautiful and powerful. I think that our perception and how we value time, unfortunately, gets ingrained in our system way before than what we think. So if you go back to your school years, even when you were like, you know, younger than 10 years old, you're 7 or 8, you go to school for 5 days a week and the weekend is 2 days. I remember at least when I was in school, both in Spain and in the UK, everyone wanted for the week to go by very quickly so the weekend would arrive. And I used to think, God damn it, the week is 5 days and the weekend is only 2 days. Yeah. How many days of our lives are we just like wasting and just hoping for them to go by quickly for 2 days? Like, I am not a math person. I also don't want to be a math person, by the way. But that math doesn't work, right?
And that's your childhood as well. Like
exactly.
the best years of your life. And I felt the exact same thing. Like Mondays sucked and Fridays were great. But I think sometimes what made the Fridays great probably is that Mondays sucked.
Exactly.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yes. And it's in a way how we find purpose and how we define purpose. So one of the things that I really enjoy about your journey and your story is that you're able to find different purposes throughout your very young life. You had an initial purpose, which was at the professional level, YouTube oriented. And the second purpose, again, at the professional level, which was entrepreneurial oriented. If I were to ask you today, what is your purpose in life? How would you answer this?
Today, my purpose is trying to be a stronger person. I went through a period like 3 years ago where I was super anxious, scared of everything. And I want to build a family. I have now a wife. I'm starting to build that family. We're not having kids just yet, but the goal is to do that. And I want to just be a very strong father one day, a good son, a good husband, and hopefully a good kind of person to work with or work for. So yeah, right now it's that. So I'm in that building stage. I still feel like I'm in my 30s. But one day I do want to go back to South Africa and make a proper difference to a lot of people's lives if I'm in the position to do so. It's something I've already kind of started doing in a small way throughout my life, but I want to do a lot more.
You are, by definition, a risk taker. What is your relationship with fear?
Yeah, so I was on holiday recently, and there was this massive rock to jump off, and I do like to go towards it, but I got to the very top of the rock, and I was like, this is like 14 meters or something. I wish it was 10 meters. But then I was like, no, I have to kind of do it because I'm going to feel so good afterwards. So my relationship with fear is, okay, use it sometimes because it's actually important. It stops you from dying. But if you can be calculated and you're not fearful of something that's going to hurt someone else, you're just fearful of something that you think is going to hurt you, but it's not actually going to hurt you, then just try and do it because you'll feel good afterwards.
What's your biggest fear now?
My biggest fear, I guess, I haven't experienced tragedy in my own family. I've been super lucky. Obviously, you know, I've suffered loss with grandparents and that, but not with like my closest family or friends. And so I'm kind of like, everyone goes through that, and yeah, I've never experienced it. I can't imagine what it's like. So I'm terrified of a phone call one day.
That's a very interesting one, because until last year, I also never experienced tragedy. But last year, my uncle, the brother of my mom, he passed away. He was 54. Nobody could see it. Like nobody could predict it because he didn't smoke, he didn't drink. Yeah. He went to bed and he never woke up. He had a heart attack. And it's fascinating to see that even in those very dark moments, from something that doesn't make much sense, there's still growth at a personal level, but also at a family level. And you lose something, but also you can gain a lot if you allow yourself to see that. So for example, in the case of my family, we were never as close as we are right now. For example, he has three kids, 3 daughters, 3 cousins to me. And we were close, but because they live in Spain and I live in London, we were never deeply close at an emotional level. So we would see each other at a Christmas dinner, and we would just share surface level updates from each other's lives. How are you doing? How's your work going, or your university, whatever it is. But right now when we meet, we go deep and we try to understand each other, and we're very much all of us present in the moment. And that's something that we gained and came from a loss. So I guess my humble advice that comes from my experience, that if you ever have to go through that, in my opinion, there's always something that can help you grow, and there's always something positive that can come out from a loss.
Yeah, it's something I don't think I'll understand properly until that happens. But I just, you know, the older you get, it's gonna happen. I've got this I think great uncle who's 99 years old, and his children were speaking to him, and they were just like something about his friends.
Yeah,
I don't know, they were asking about his friends, and he was like, yeah, no one I grew up with is alive. Mm-hmm. Every single one is now gone. And he's in a privileged position to have gone through that, but I almost don't know what's worse, like experiencing a lot of loss or being the one who is lost.
Yeah.
So it's life, right? And it's something I think we don't talk about a lot of. And I don't know if you've spoken to any experts when it comes to this, but something I think I want to learn more about, because it's one of the 2 things that are certain in life.
Yeah.
Death and taxes.
It's an interesting one. I've never brought an expert in that regard, but we should speak about loss. I agree. A good friend of mine, he once gave me an advice that sounds very simple, but is profoundly powerful. Yeah. He said, may life teach you what life means. And you can apply that to anything in life.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Let's talk about advices. So if someone wants to follow their professional dream, their careers, and I'm sure you have friends that fall under this category, but they are too afraid to start, what would you advise them? What would you tell them so they can start?
you gotta, I mean, it's annoying. My advice to start something is to start something. But don't try and make it too amazingly perfect before you do it. Don't have this huge goal of what you're gonna look like. Like the same with gym. Like don't start gym because you want to be super muscular. Like start it because you want to get through that day. Just think about the day. Take it into small segments and think, if I go to gym for 30 minutes today and I do 3 workouts, that is starting. Starting is not perfecting. And so my advice is just to pick it up, and every single day that you do it, even if you don't do a lot, you make progress. And you don't need to quit everything you're doing before you see a sense of success. So don't feel like, when I did the YouTube thing and I became an entrepreneur, I didn't quit YouTube before I saw the entrepreneurship stuff working. Because we live in a world where you need to survive. Like money is really hard to make, and living, especially in London, in the cities where a lot of these businesses are started, is really expensive. But then when you do see it working and you're able to take a risk, give it a go.
If you could talk to your younger self, what would you advise him?
Yeah, just calm down. Don't worry so much, I think, is the main advice. Don't overthink it. Enjoy. Things are going to go quickly. It's weird growing up. I'm always thinking, especially when you're younger, you always want to be older. And now I'm like I feel like I just don't ever want to get any older now, and I'm kind of at the perfect age. And so, I wish maybe I enjoyed it even more than I did.
With all the knowledge you have acquired until today, knowing everything you now know, what would you do differently if you would start all over?
Yeah, I would have started the business stuff even earlier. Starting in your early 20s sounds early. We were young entrepreneurs. But I would have just started earlier. Because the earlier you start, the compound is incredible. Every single year now we're growing, and if we just started a couple of years earlier, we would be so much further. I'd also, just tell myself that you're gonna get through things, and you stop overthinking it now. Like when I was going through like the kind of year, I had like this year of anxiety, like really like crippling, like to the point where I wouldn't even get in a car, or I wouldn't want to leave my house. And I was speaking to a psychologist about it, and I was like, how am I gonna take my kids to school one day? How am I ever gonna get married? And he's like, stop thinking so far ahead. Think about today. And what
was the root cause of that problem?
I think it was a combination of lockdown, because it happened during lockdown. Stomach issues that got out of control. I don't know exactly, because your stomach is so connected to your head, and I'm sure you know more about this than I do. And it was just kind of this kind of spiral of all these things, and then they made me want to avoid everything, and then by avoiding things, I was even more scared of those things. And so,
how did you come out of it?
So exposure therapy, very slowly over time, was a big part of it, and that is basically with the car thing, like do a little small tiny trip around your neighborhood, get bigger and bigger. Like I was terrified of getting on flights. You have to eventually get on that flight to get over it. The more confidence I built, the better, and the stronger I got. And that's why I say, like, my goal right now, I just want to be very strong, and that's not being strong physically, it's also up there. And
how long did it take you to overcome this?
It was a good kind of year to get to a place where I was actually out there doing stuff. And during this, actually, I was fundraising for our first fund, during part of the bad time, and that was so hard because I was in meetings with my partner Sasha, and while on the outside I probably looked fine, inside I was like, I don't even know how to explain it. You feel so ill and anxious and scared and all of these things. But I think it was like a year of still doing it. And then even a couple of years later, I would still have every now and then something. Maybe it's usually to do with jet lag or stomach or something that created it. And then I would go back to it, but then it would only last a day. And now I still think there'll be days where I feel anxious and like randomly I'll, you know, and it won't, I don't even know why. It will be something's out of sync or something. But at least now I know like that's going to last a day or an hour, and you don't have to like start avoiding things. And the best thing to do is get back on the horse, keep making yourself strong.
Caspar, how would you define happiness?
For me, happiness is stability. Yeah, just I don't want to be up there, like I don't want to be ecstatic and just always smiling. I just want to be chilled.
Are you happy?
Right now I'm very happy. Yeah. It's I've just, you know, I've had a great night's sleep, had a great meal with friends last night. Yeah. This week we've done a lot of great work, and I did a couple of things that scared me again, like I had to present in front of my team in the UK and US, like 160 people. And I was super nervous about it, and I spent a lot of time working on it, and I did a good job. So this week I'm happy. Next week, I don't know. But those swings aren't as big as maybe they used to be before I was strong.
And how do you define success?
Defining success is, I think, being able to help out others. I think if you're in a position to be strong enough to support others who aren't as strong, I think that's a great success. And we live in a world where that seems to be very financially related because we're in a capitalist society. But I think that's only one part of it. That's one like small part of it. I think people can be so much more successful when they're able not to give someone money to solve a problem, but they can give them experience and advice and time.
And would you say you are successful?
In that regard, I could do more because I'm so busy building the strength. And that's why I say I'm always like, I'm going to become that super successful person helping others like that in the future. But I think even talking about it out loud, there's this stuff you can do today, which isn't just building financial success, but it's helping others out.
Thank you, Caspar. I enjoyed our conversation for so many reasons, but the main one is because your story demonstrates that purpose is dynamic. And as humans, we grow, we evolve, we learn, and so do our goals and our purpose. So I thank you for sharing your story and for showing us that it can be incredibly powerful to pivot in the pursuit of happiness. So I thank you for that, and I look forward to following the next steps of your.
I look forward to coming to eat at your amazing restaurants.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers.